here, ready to give you your story for this week. Today we are studying Joshua chapter 3. But before we do that, we need to review Joshua's 1 and 2. So who can remember what Joshua, the name, means? That's a very good guess. Deliverer is really, really close. What's another word for deliverer? Saves. Yes, Joshua means he saves. So, who is Joshua in charge of? That's right, he's in charge of the Israelites, which is a really, really large group of people. And so this large group of people who God has chosen has their leader, Joshua. Now, has Joshua always been their leader? Nope, he hasn't. Who was their leader before? Close, but it wasn't Noah. I know, Noah and Moses. For some reason, people always get the two confused. It was Moses, though. So, Moses was in charge of the Israelites, and then he hit the rock instead of speaking to the rock, so he doesn't get to go into the promised land. He did get to see it, though. So now Moses has died, and it's Joshua's turn to take them into the promised land. Before they go into the promised land, though, he sends out 2 spies. And the spies go into the land and they find out the people in the promised land are scared of the Israelites. Because remember, God promised the Israelites he would put fear into the people. And he kept that promise. So here we are, Joshua chapter 3, and we're getting ready to start. But before we do, remember, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we listen twice as much as we speak. I'm ready to say what we always say. The Bible, oh come on guys, you got to say it with me. The Bible is the inspired word of God. Every word in the Bible is true. Good job, guys. All right, Joshua chapter 3. Then Joshua rose early in the morning and they set out from Shittim. And they came to the Jordan. That's the Jordan River. He and all the people of Israel and lodged there before they passed over. Now, if you're lodging somewhere, that means that you're sleeping there or camping out there. So that's what Israel did. At the end of 3 days, the officers went through the camp and commanded the people, as soon as you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God being carried by the Levitical priest, then you shall set out from your place and follow it. Now, we've talked about when the Israelites, anywhere that they go, they have to follow the Ark of the Covenant. And so that is what they have to do here as well. Yet there shall be a distance between you and the Ark of the Covenant, about 2,000 cubits in length. Now, what in the world is a cubit? I sat there and couldn't figure it out, so I looked it up. Now, if a foot is about this long, a cubit is almost 2 feet, but not quite. So a cubit is about this long. So 2,000 of these. And this is about the size of, well, someone's footstep. So about 2,000 steps away from the Ark of the Covenant. And remember, it says, I'm starting in verse 4, the middle of it. Do not come near it, in order that you may know the way you shall go, for you have not passed this way before. Now, that sounds maybe kind of silly, but you got to remember, for the last 40 years, they've been wandering around in the wilderness. They're pretty used to the paths that they take. This is new territory for them. Verse 5, Then Joshua said to the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. That word consecrate, that's kind of a big word, but it means that you set your heart and your mind on the things that you're getting ready to do. So he's telling them, get your mind prepared, because tomorrow we are going to see wonders. Verse 6, And Joshua said to the priests, take up the Ark of the Covenant and pass on before the people. So they took up the Ark of the Covenant and went before the people. The Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Well, let's remember that commandment, or that promise right there. I'm going to read it one more time because I want it to be in your minds. Then the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Do you guys have it in your memory now? All right, good job. So he's going to make Joshua as important as Moses was. That's pretty big stuff to do. And as for you, command the priests who bear the Ark of the Covenant, when you come to the edge of the waters of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. Actually, I'm not sure if it's edge or if it's in the midst of them. What does brink mean? The edge. It is the edge. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Sometimes Miss Misty has to ask questions too. All right, and Joshua said to the people of Israel, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. And Joshua said, here is how you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will, without fail, drive out from before you the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, and the Jebusites. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth is passing over before you into the Jordan. Now therefore, take 12 men from the tribes of Israel, from each tribe 1 man. And when the soles of the feet of the priests bearing the ark of the Lord of all the earth, shall rest in the waters of the Jordan, and the waters of the Jordan shall be cut off from flowing, and the waters coming down from above shall stand in one heap. Now that sounds kind of confusing, doesn't it? So let's think back. The last time they went over a big body of water was the Red Sea. Okay, so Moses raised his staff and commanded the waters, and they divided, and wind blew, and by morning the ground was dry, completely dry. It had been saturated in water, but it was completely dry. This time it was a little bit different. So the priests, they walk into the Jordan River, and then as the Jordan River is flowing, all of a sudden, back up here, way back, the Jordan stops. And a wall of water starts back there. And the Bible says that it piles up in one heap. So a heap of something, if you have a heap of clothes, that's a pile of clothes. So back on the river there, the water is heaping up. Isn't that cool? It is just the coolest thing. All right. I wonder, are they going to walk through on mud? That's a really, really cool thought. I don't often have cool thoughts, you know. So when the people set out from their tents to pass over the Jordan with the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant from before the people, and as soon as those bearing the ark had come as far as the Jordan, and the feet of the priest bearing the ark were dipped in the brink of the water, now at this time the Jordan water overflows its banks all throughout the time of harvest. That means let's think of our river. We have the Ohio River, and right now it's spring. We have a lot of rain. So the river is way up on its banks. And this is the same as this time that they're at. This is around harvest time, and the water is just above its banks. It's not its normal depth. It's much bigger. The waters coming down from above stood and rose up in a heap very far away at Adam, the city that is beside Zarethan, and those flowing down toward the sea of the Arabah, the salt sea, were cut off completely. Okay, so we got a pile of water over here and nothing over here. Can you imagine what those people who lived in those towns that usually get that water thought? Oh my goodness, I can't. I would be scared if water were rolling along and then all of a sudden, where'd our water go? It just stopped. Oh. Now the priest bearing the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood firmly on the ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all of Israel was passing over on dry ground. They didn't pass on mud. until all the nation finished passing over the Jordan. And we're starting in chapter 4, but we've got a few things to cover. When all the nation had finished passing over the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Take 12 men from the people, from each tribe, and command them, saying, 'Take 12 stones from here of the midst of the Jordan, from the very place where the priest's feet stood firmly, and bring them over with you, and lay them down in the place where you lodge tonight.'" Okay, so they're going to have to pick up a stone, cross over the Jordan, and they don't get to place them down until they camp that night. All right, so let's remember this. They're going to have a stone. I wonder if it's going to be a small stone or a big stone. I hope it tells us. And Joshua said to them, Then Joshua called the 12 men from the people of Israel, whom he had appointed a man from each tribe. And Joshua said to them, "Pass on before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of the Jordan, and take up each of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the people of Israel." All right, so I had a question about the stone. If it's a small stone, you can just stick it in your pocket, or you can just carry it in your hand. But these stones are big enough, they have to carry it on their shoulder. So these aren't going to be little stones. I'm thinking these are pretty big stones if they have to carry them like this, don't you? All right. So pass on. I am behind, guys. I'm sorry. So after they have the stone, he says, "This may be a sign unto you when your children ask in time to come, 'What do these stones mean to you?' Then you shall tell them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be to the people of Israel a memorial forever." And the people of Israel did just as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones out of the midst of the Jordan. Midst means the middle, or inside of. And took up 12 stones out of the midst of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribes of the people of Israel, just as the Lord had told Joshua. And they carried them over with them to the place where they had lodged, and laid them down there. And Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests bearing the ark of the covenant had stood. And they are there to this day. For the priests bearing the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until everything was finished that the Lord had commanded Joshua to tell the people, according to all that Moses had commanded Joshua. It's really cool, that thought of carrying stones and setting them off to the side. That way, every time you look, you can be like, God kept his promise there. The people, we're getting ready to start in verse 11. The people passed over in haste. That means they went pretty quickly. And when all the people had finished passing over, the ark of the Lord and the priest passed over before the people. The sons of Reuben, the sons of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh passed over armed before the people of Israel, as Moses had told them. About 40,000 ready for war passed over before the Lord for battle, to the plains of Jericho. Now, why did these 2.5 parts of the 12 tribes of Israel, come over armed and ready for war? Do you guys remember that? Why was it just the fighting men who came over? Why not their families? Good. You are doing so well. That's right. The 2.5 tribes, when they were on this side of the Jordan, they said, "This land is great for our sheep and our cows and our goats and our donkeys. We want to live here. Can we please live here?" And God said, "Yes, you may live here, but all of your fighting men must fight until all of the promised land is conquered." And so the people of Manasseh and Reuben and the half-tribe of Manasseh and Gad and Reuben, they got together and said, "Yes, we will do this. We make a covenant before the Lord." So they're getting ready to cross over into the promised land, and the fighting men are ready to go. Now, do you guys remember that promise we had earlier? What was that promise? It was in verse 7 of chapter 3. The Lord said to Joshua, "Today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all of Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you." All right, now let's go back to chapter 4. And we are now in verse 14. You ready to see that promise fulfilled? This is so cool. On that day, the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they stood in awe of him, just as they had stood in awe of Moses all the days of his life. And that is where we're going to end today, guys. I really miss you a whole bunch. I can't wait to see you soon. Don't forget, if you want to leave comments, you can leave them in the comments section. And I think that's all I need to tell you guys.